Missouri is a surprisingly good state for roller coasters, with 3 solid theme parks to enjoy, along with over 30 coasters across the area. I've been able to visit all the main theme parks in the last few years and ridden most of the big coasters, except for a few mountain coasters, Zambezi's Zinger, and the new Fire in the Hole. But I don't think any of those would make the top 10 anyway. I've gotten multiple rides on pretty much all of my top 10, so I think I have a decent feel for the coasters in this list, and 3 of them are even in my current top 10 for my total ranking. With that out of the way, let's get right into the rankings. At number 10 is one of the most photogenic coasters I have ever ridden, Wildfire at Silver Dollar City, a B&M sit-down coaster. It is an absolutely beautiful setting in the woods of the Ozarks towards the back of the park, and has some nice and smooth inversions as well. This ride just edges out some of the other B&Ms in the state like Patriot and Batman due to its amazing first drop. I do slightly prefer Hulk at Islands of Adventure to this ride, although both are very similar to me, with Hulk having the great launch at the beginning as well. At number 9 is another really photogenic and intense coaster, Mr. Freeze at Six Flags St. Louis, a Premier Rides launch shuttle coaster. This thing is just insane right out of the gate with an amazing 70 miles per hour backwards launch into an inverted top hat and a massive 218-foot spike before going through the whole layout forwards. The spike is easily the best part of the ride, giving a ton of sustained airtime that almost feels like hang time with the little booster launch it gives you at the top of the spike. Given its high intensity, I don't ride this as much as others on the list, and that also makes me rank it slightly lower than most, but if you do love intensity, this is the ride for you. At number 8 is a ride that has sadly dropped a decent amount for me in recent years, Boss at Six Flags St. Louis, a massive CCI wooden coaster. This used to easily be my favorite ride at the park, but it has gotten really rough in the last few years, so I've dropped it quite a bit recently. It still has an impressive layout with a bunch of ejector pops and lateral filled turns, but especially if you sit in a wheel seat, this ride can easily give you a headache. I still put it this high for the amazing night ride, one of the best in the country in my opinion, and it still has a great first drop and airtime throughout to enjoy. At number 7 is a really unique launch coaster, Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City, an S&S compressed air launch coaster. The launch on this coaster is easily the star of the show, and only worse than Accelerator's launch at Knott's Berry Farm. It really starts the ride off with a bang, but it still has some impressive floater airtime hills throughout, and a lift hill towards the end of the ride with another solid drop. It's really smooth too, and in the front row you can really feel the speed, despite it only going a little over 50 miles per hour. This is one of the more underrated coasters in the state, so definitely don't miss out on this hidden gem in the back of the park. At number 6 is a ride that has impressed me more and more as the years have gone on, Screamin' Eagle at Six Flags St. Louis, a PTC wooden coaster. This is quickly becoming one of my most ridden coasters due to it being the better the more I ride it. I don't think it's too rough, especially compared to Boss in the same park, and it has a ton of great floater airtime throughout and even an ejector pop towards the end too. This also has an amazing night ride where you basically see nothing during the whole layout, and it feels even more out of control. I originally had this below Ninja at the park in my rankings due to how I thought it was pretty rough then, but they have done some major retracking in the last few years and it's running like a dream now. It's not glass smooth or anything, but for a ride that's almost 50 years old, it's running as good as ever and has uplifted it from 7th in the park to runner-up. At number 5 is my most ridden roller coaster, American Thunder at Six Flags St. Louis, a GCI wooden coaster. This has always been top 2 in the park for me, but now it's back to being number 1 after Boss has dropped off a bit. It's just a pure fun ride with a ton of airtime, a great first drop, and lateral filled transitions throughout. It's my lowest ranked GCI, but still easily in my top 20, which just tells you how good these GCIs really are. It's not the most intense thing in the world, but it's definitely one of the most re-rideable coasters I've been on, and why it consistently has been one of my personal favorites ever since I first rode it. At number 4 is another amazing GCI wooden coaster, Prowler at Worlds of Fun. Everything I said about American Thunder can pretty much be applied to this ride, but this just turns the intensity up a notch. Especially for my night ride on this, it was absolutely hauling through the whole course, and you couldn't see anything due to it mostly being at the edge of the park. It's a little on the rougher side for a GCI, but that really isn't that bad compared to some of the other older wooden coasters. Every coaster at Worlds of Fun impressed me, and this ride was no exception, despite it actually being only number 2 in the park where I thought it would originally be number 1. This ride will come a little later in the ranking. At number 3 is the only RMC in the state, Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City, an RMC topper track wooden coaster. This ride is consistently regarded as one of, if not the best coasters in the state, and there is certainly a lot backing this claim up. The first drop is absolutely insane, especially in the back, and has so many powerful airtime moments throughout the ride, along with 3 great inversions, the most on any wooden coaster. The back-to-back barrel rolls at the end of the ride is easily my favorite element, which gives so much great hang time. It does have some bite to it, much like Prowler, but it's not really that rough compared to most other wooden coasters. It really isn't higher due to a fairly short ride, clocking in at just over 30 seconds, and it doesn't waste any of the time throughout the layout, but it makes me prefer a couple of other rides over this. At number 2 is probably the most underrated coaster I've ever ridden, Mamba at Worlds of Fun, a Morgan hypercoaster. I don't know what I expected this ride to be like when I first rode it, but it easily blew those expectations out of the water. The first half was pretty much what I expected, with a solid first drop and a great floater airtime hill, and an intense helix leading into the brake run. The thing is, after 2022, these trims on the brake run were severely turned down, and now the second half is one of the most insane experiences I've ever had. There were like 6 straight hills where I barely even touched my seat and was being launched up in the air every time. It certainly wasn't for everyone, but I absolutely loved it and couldn't stop laughing during the whole second half. This coaster was my favorite in the state for a year, and even in my top 5, but that was before I visited Silver Dollar City, the destination of our number 1 in the state. And at number 1 is, of course, Time Traveler, the very first Mach Rides extreme spinner in the world. This ride is just so unique and fun, and I couldn't ride it enough during my visit to that amazing park. Especially in the back car, this ride is an unreal experience with amazing airtime literally as soon as you leave the station with that 90-degree first drop. It's glass smooth too, with some fun launches mixed in, but the spinning aspect is what really sets this ride above the rest in the list. It makes you take normal elements like a vertical loop, a launch, and a zero-G roll at a sideways or other weird angles, and it just feels different to any other coaster I have been on. It's not the most intense coaster in the world, but it might be one of the most fun, and I really hope another one goes in the US in the next few years. Do you agree with Time Traveler being the best in Missouri, or do you think it's overhyped? Post your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe for more content, and check out my reviews of all the coasters in this list.